They made that look easy. That's not an easy song. I just want to say that. Can we give them some more love, please? Whew. You know, whenever I get to joy, right? So I have shared how when I was finishing up my training to be an agape practitioner, at the service that they did, where we were installed, our installation service, each of us was picking a quality randomly out of a bag, and that quality was like ours, right? And the whole community was going to support us to live into that quality. They went alphabetically, and back then I wasn't a Morancy, I was a Weir. So I was all the way at the end. I was the last person. And so as I'm sitting there, I was watching myself because I knew right away that I wanted radiant joy. Like, I knew it. I was like, that's my thing. And then every time somebody reached their hand in, I'd have a moment of like, oh, I hope they don't get joy. Now, that's a horrible thing to wish for anybody. I hope they don't get joy. And I sort of caught myself after a couple of moments, and I was like, oh, just chill. It's all good. Whatever I get, I know that I'm radiant joy. Whatever happens is going to happen in the room. And guess what I picked? Joy. I picked joy, right? So, which was all just part of that understanding of sort of who we actually are. So whenever I get to this time of year, a part of me like lights up. But then there's the other part of me that struggles. Because there are things in this world that are hard. There's losses that we go through. The holidays are hard sometimes because our loved ones aren't with us, perhaps. And that might be because they're physically distant, but it could be because they've passed. It could be because there's estrangement. It could be any number of things. And so that, like, there's a tension. Can you feel the tension? So this is why our practice at Advent is so important, because we want to be able to... Am I not on? No, this thingy. Oh, there we go. My wife helped me out, but I figured it out. Okay. So we start with faith, right? And that bareness, which is a lot of what the tension is, I think, for all of us at all times. The bareness of what might be happening in the world, of what might be happening within our hearts, of what might be happening within our relationships. And so faith, as Unity holds it, is our willingness to trust in the unseen, our inner yes to divine possibility, and the seed of our spiritual perception. It's the seed of it all. And from our faith, we can become grounded in that spiritual perception, which is where peace begins to become something that we can experience. It's an inner state of stillness. It's a space for our compassionate awareness to begin to become present in a way that we can acknowledge it. And that's because we're not focused just on what's happening around us. We're focused on what's happening within us, and we're focused on the greater presence that is always available and always accessible. And from there, we get to step into love. And love, as Unity understands it, isn't a feeling. It isn't an emotion. I talked about this last week, right? Emotions change and shift, thank goodness. But love is an emotion, but that's not the love we're talking about. We're talking about love as our capacity to harmonize and unify. That is our capacity to be that, a unifier, a harmonizer. And so love is how the divine takes form. Love is how we activate and live into our values through the choices that we make. And then that brings us to joy. And I love Mother Teresa says, a joyful heart is the inevitable result of a heart burning with love. Joy is something that is ours. It is our birthright. But it is rooted in our capacity of spiritual perception and in our capacity to show up as the voice, the hands, the very feet of love. So we can think of it this way. Faith opens the eyes of the heart. Peace steadies our gaze. Love is our ability to show up in time and space. And joy is the effort and mindset that we bring to our actions and choices. Let me be very clear. Joy is not easy. It's easeful, but it's not easy. It's not just like, oh yeah, whatever, and then joy happens. We have to put our focus to it. We have to put our intention to it. We have to consciously bring our joy into the world and shine our light. And just to be clear, pleasure is not the same as joy. And how you can know the difference is that pleasure decreases the more we indulge. That one glass of wine, that might be fabulous. By the fifth or sixth glass of wine, I'm not sure we're all feeling quite as pleasurable. Joy increases the more that we practice, right? It increases as we practice it. So think of it as a regenerative cycle where love is calling us into action. We bring joy to our actions. This creates more love, and love calls us to act. Can you feel the regenerative cycle of this? So joy is what enables love to sustain itself. This joy is how we don't get tired. Joy is how we don't get burned out. Joy is how we don't get hopeless. Joy is the antidote to all of that tiredness. Anybody in here tired? But it's not, I want everyone to sense how it's not something elusive. And that joy is available to us even in the midst of our deepest sorrow. When my father passed away, Chris will share with you, it really kind of knocked me out for about 3 weeks. I really was struggling with just navigating my grief. The grief just came in waves, and I just had to keep allowing that grief to come. And in allowing that grief to come, I really couldn't do much of anything else. I just had to be with the grief. But in those moments, there was, even in the grief, which is an emotion, which is changeable and mutable, my joy of my relationship with my father would shine through. I'd have these moments of just absolute clarity around how much he loved me, how much I loved him, how we somehow found a way to heal things in our relationship, how we didn't necessarily get to heal everything in our relationship, but I was working it right then, writing him letters, listening for his response. There was joy in that. Can you feel that? And it took courage on my part, and it took effort on my part, and it asked me to step up in some way. We are always being called to show up in a way that makes us feel vulnerable. True joy requires that we are vulnerable. Our vision statement, a world spiritually awakened and transformed through realizing our divine potential. We can't live this vision if we're not joy. Can you feel the truth of that? We need to step into all of this Advent cycle, the faith, the peace, the love, and the joy, which enables us to sustain. I found this, and it really struck me. I was reading about this. So I don't know if you know, in Texas, Abbott has sort of targeted the crosswalks that are painted with pride flags and Black Lives Matters, like anything that's sort of been put in crosswalks, by saying that if those crosswalks aren't made, if that stuff doesn't go away, that he's going to withhold county and city and state funding. So Oaklawn United Methodist Church said, we have to act on this from love. And so they have private property that nobody has control over except them. And this is what they did. Right? This is what they did to the front of their church. And doesn't it just bring you joy? So this was their statement, which I think is so powerful. It's important because silence is not neutral. Everyone breathe with me on this. Silence is not neutral. Silence in the face of harm always sides with the oppressor. We believe love belongs in public. And then they go on to say, this is not a political act. And I have been saying this again and again and again here. When we stand in our values, it is not about politics. It is about being the moral compass for this country. This is not a political act. It is a pastoral one. It's an expression of our faith in a God whose covenant love is wider than fear and whose grace refuses to be painted over. And I love this last line. The rainbow is a reminder that God keeps showing up, especially for those the world tries to silence. Right? The rainbow is God's covenant. Right? It's a covenant. It is an agreement. This is what happens when we allow that to grow within us. And you know, it wasn't easy. This required effort, right? This whole community showed up for this, right? It wasn't something that just, happened. Can you imagine the conversations they had in this community about this? Can you imagine what was going on within this community in order to make that manifest? Joyful effort. That's what we're being invited into, to bring our joy and to bring it rooted from love. If we want more joy, we must use joy. And I found this is a quote from the New York Times asks people to send in like their best, like what's your best like way to live for the year? And I think this is like from 2023. Be a fountain, not a drain. And I love that, right? Can you be a fountain of joy? Instead of a drain, instead of sucking the joy out of the room. So I just want to talk a little bit about what Norman Fisher in his book talks about spiritual laziness. And he says most of us are not lazy in how much we do, but he says we are lazy about anchoring all we do in love, wholeness, and being a benefit to others. Can you feel the truth of that? It's not about what you're doing. It's about where are you coming from? What is the consciousness that you are bringing into the world? And we want our acts, whatever they are, to be acts of love, to be acts of joy, to honor our core values, authenticity, inclusivity, connectivity. To truly respect other people, listen to other people when they tell us something, even if it's really hard to hear. To acknowledge that there are other perspectives and other perceptions out there. And that part of our work is to show up in that space. To not cover things up. And to act from a pastoral understanding, not from a place of anger or frustration or fear. We're being invited to move from love. Rumi says, when you do things from your soul, you feel a river moving in you, a joy. And that's that divine flow. That's that space where you just, you know. Everything we've been doing in Advent builds the muscles for us to be able to stand in that space and to show up, to truly show up. That community in Texas, do you think they're vulnerable right now? They are, right? They are vulnerable right now. Are they a light The quote I used last week for Hanukkah, right? Which is, don't complain, be a light in the darkness. They are being a light right now. They are letting people know that you're not alone. It's about connection. It's about a deep respect and appreciation. So, it sounds cheesy, right? Choose joy, like you expected to see it on one of those cutouts, like hanging in a salon or something, right? Choose joy, use joy, live joy. But guess what? That is actually what we're all invited to do. Everybody say this with me. Choose joy, use joy, live joy. Now tell it to the people around you. And doesn't that automatically start to shift something? We need to pay attention to what helps keep our vibrational frequency open, what makes it stay available. That's why we come together in sacred community. So let's take this into our time of meditation. Just breathing into that joy, the joy that arises as we step into the spirit of Hanukkah, as we step into this culmination of Advent, which is all about rededicating ourselves. What are you dedicating yourself to right now? What is going to be your intention, your raison d'etre, right? What is it that you are being invited to show up as that is authentically you? So we anchor that space of quiet and peace. Well, we're not at peace yet. First, we start with faith, right? So just feel the seed of our knowing. The seed, the mustard seed that grows, that can move mountains. And just allow and welcome the peace, the groundedness, the centeredness that arises as we allow our spiritual understanding to arise and to be where we see from and live from. And as we rest in that centered space, we become an avenue of love. We become a place where love wants to act in the world through us, as us, for each other. And so I invite you to just bring into mind any situation that you know is in need of love right now. A person, a place, a part of your body maybe. And from that, just welcome the joy that is your birthright. The joy that arises from an alignment with the truth of who we are, the joy that is our true nature shining forth fully, powerfully, lovingly, compassionately. And just allow yourself to just be with who and what you truly are as we rest here for a few moments in the silence. And so it is from this space, this place, that I invite you to just see yourself choosing joy, using joy, and living joy. How are you being called to show up as the energy of love and wholeness for the betterment of this world? There is that which is yours to do and to be in the world. Just opening up to a willingness to choose, to always be choosing so that the world is a better place, leaving the world better than we found it. How grateful I am for this season of Advent, how grateful I am for this season of Hanukkah and the opportunity to rededicate ourselves to our values, to who and what we truly are. And gratitude for this and so much more. I do give thanks. Releasing it right here, right now, knowing it is done. And I invite you to know this with me by saying, and so it is. Amen. Ashe. So our affirmation today, I'll say it first. Today I share my joy as a fountain. Today I share my light as a fountain of joy. I share my joy as a fountain of joy. You could say that too, I guess. I anchor all I do in love, wholeness, and being of benefit to the world. Can we know this together, please? Today I share my light as a fountain of joy. I anchor all I do in love, wholeness, and being of benefit to the world. And so it is. Thank you, everyone.